CBS News Miami.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Najahe Sherman.
And I'm Lauren Pastrana. Welcome to a special one-hour edition of our CBS News Miami 4 p.m. Quickcast. We're also streaming live on CBS News Miami.
We are tracking Idalia. The storm is now a hurricane. It's intensifying as it heads north toward the Florida Gulf Coast. South Florida is not in the cone, but our neighbors to the north are.
And we're taking a live look right now at pictures out of Naples, where you could see a couple of people out there on the beach, but seems for the most part the pier is empty. People perhaps playing it safe after dealing with what they went through last year. Looks like a lot of the ice storms typically impact this part of Florida. Last year was Ian, a few years ago was Irma, and now they're bracing for possible impacts from Idalia.
And we can certainly see those waters choppy and starting to pick up. Dark, ominous clouds. Idalia is expected to become a major hurricane before it makes landfall tomorrow. It is expected to hit along the Big Bend area of our state.
And we have extensive live team coverage from South Florida to the Gulf Coast this afternoon, and our team of meteorologists here tracking the storm.
Let's get right to next weather. Chief meteorologist and hurricane specialist Ivan Cabrera. He kicks off our team coverage. So, Ivan, what is the very latest on the storm's track?
Yeah, you know, the Idalia is looking a lot healthier. This time yesterday we were talking, we had a tropical storm. It still was encountering some wind shear. Well, that is now behind it, and the storm is looking a lot structurally healthy here. The planes have been flying in and been finding it just at that. And so let's talk about what's going on with Idalia. This is a 2 p.m. advisory for the National Hurricane Center. It's up to 90 miles an hour. So we have a 90-mile-an-hour Category 1 storm. 96, you get to 2. And eventually, this was forecast to become a Category 3 hurricane before it makes landfall. And it's not going to be that long. The landfall is tomorrow morning along portions of the Big Bend area here. There is the storm there with the circulation. I'll switch over to the satellite, visible satellite perspective here. This is a healthy looking storm now. We're seeing nice outflow here, which you don't want because that means the storm is able to really sustain itself. It's breathing better. The shear is not an issue. And you can see that just kind of rotation there. Eventually, right about there, that's where we're going to start seeing if we get, you know, additional intensification, which is a forecast. That's where the eye would pop here over the next 6 to 12 hours. As far as the alerts, nothing has changed here. We still have a tropical storm watch for Key West, Big Pine, up and just to the south of Marathon. And by the way, this is going to be an issue, and Cindy will talk more about the local impacts there. My concern is flooding because of the astronomically high tides combining with that onshore flow for the southern facing coast there. That's going to be an issue. Here's the track from the Hurricane Center. We'll get a new one at 5 o'clock. I'm not expecting any significant changes. Notice this is still forecast to become a Category 3 hurricane, 125-mile-an-hour winds as it approaches the Big Bend of Florida. The center of circulation, the cone, is important when you're talking about a strong hurricane because that's where the center is likely to pass. And east of that center is where we have that onshore flow, and that's where the wind piles up the water along the coast here. So that is where we can get some significant storm surge. Anything east of the center, that what we call the right front quadrant, that's the dangerous part of the storm because of its counterclockwise circulation. We'll put this a little bit closer here. You'll be able to see the landfall. And there it is. It's not going to be much longer here. We're talking about, you know, tomorrow in the early hours of the morning. If you look at the movement here north at 15, so that would make it put it right on shore as a landfall between 6 and 9 a.m. tomorrow morning here. So Cedar Key looks to get the brunt of it here. Although, again, Tampa not out of the woods here because it is a broad circulation and that water from the Gulf of Mexico is going to pile up. Remember, as we talked about Najahe and Lauren about Ian last year. Remember, Ian was south of Tampa, so they had a negative storm surge, which the water went away from Tampa Bay. This is going to be the exact opposite. Notice here the bands continue. All right, so these are the squall lines that are going to propagate north and east. These are the ones that have contained tropical storm force wind gusts. And in fact, we showed you that picture from Naples there. Conditions favorable for even tornadic storms. We had 2 tornado warnings just in the last couple of hours in Naples. I'm expecting that threat to be minor here, but not completely out of the question for us here. There are the current sustained winds. Look at Key West. You had these bands rolling through. Another one coming in, 26-mile-an-hour wind gusts pushing 40. And that will continue to move off to the north and east right now. Isla Mirada getting hit with some heavy rainfall, frequent lightning, and all of that will continue moving to the north and east. In fact, our latest computer model run has a pretty good line from north to south developing here by the time we get into the 9 o'clock hour. So we'll watch that closely. For more on the local impacts, I want to send it over to next weather meteorologist Cindy Pressler, because despite the fact, Cindy, that this thing is going to be well away from us as far as the center, the impacts here are going to be significant, particularly down in the Keys with coastal flooding.
Yeah, we've been watching these gusty rain bands all afternoon moving through the Keys, and now they're just getting into our western Miami-Dade and Broward counties. And these gusty squalls have already produced a severe thunderstorm warning over western Broward County. So any one of these cells could become severe this afternoon, and we have a low chance for a small spin-up tornado. So it's something to keep in mind. So we continue to watch them. We've got some outflow now pushing off to the east, getting into the metro areas here. So eventually we are going to see some rain getting into our western metro areas, but at this point it's still been sitting off to the west. But you can see these heavier bands. There is some lightning with that. They are moving to the north, northeast. They are flying anywhere from 35 to 40 miles per hour. It's this, when you get a tropical system, oftentimes you have storms that move that fast. So this is going to be a fast mover up here in the upper Keys. And this is the area that has coastal flood alerts going on for tonight, when we've got high tide again just after 10 o'clock tonight. So there could be some flooding. Haven't seen a lot down here in Key West yet, but this is going to be above normal mean high tide tonight. So that's when you could see. Plus, the winds will be coming out of the south, southeast, southwest. That's going to push that water up on the south shores of the Keys tonight. So Marathon down to Key West. Highest wind peak today was 45 miles per hour. Those gusts will continue into tonight and even tomorrow yet. Not letting go just yet. And then we've got another story going on. Not just the storms and, of course, Idalia, but we've got heat out here on the east side of the state. 91 degrees in Miami and Homestead, 91 degrees in Fort Lauderdale. But oh wait, add the humidity to it. It feels like 107. It was 109 just an hour ago. So we have a heat advisory in effect for Miami-Dade and Broward County. That will run until 7 o'clock tonight. So we'll watch these little bands come in again tonight, and then we get a little bit of a break overnight. Tomorrow again around 10 a.m. another gusty rain band will come in. So we're going to watch that very closely. They move quickly, so the flooding threat isn't that high. But look how this continues even into Thursday. We're still getting some banding, so Idalia is not leaving us quite yet. But those winds, that's going to be the big story tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to probably be our gustiest day, even here on the east side of the state. And then as we go into more normalcy as we head into the weekend, with a lower chance for rain, but more of the sea breeze driven or the daytime heating driven storms. So there you've got it. A lot going on with the Idalia, and we've got the showers and thunderstorms with the squally lines coming here on the east side.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Our team coverage now moves outside where conditions have been intensifying for many people.
CBS News Miami's Jason Allen is live for us in Crystal River, just about an hour north of Tampa. Jason, how are things looking there right now? Looks pretty calm behind you.
It really is, Lorna and Naja. I mean, it's kind of been one of those hot, humid, typical Florida days here on the Gulf Coast, right? But we are watching to the south where some of those first bands from Idalia are setting up. And people right now as well, kind of nervously watching all those high tides that we were just hearing about. The water unusually high today, and in this area, it could end up several feet higher.
Hurricane Idalia made its presence known in the Florida Keys. Outer bands lashing Key West Tuesday. Forecasters expect the storm will quickly intensify before making landfall in Florida's Big Bend region as a Category 3 hurricane.
10, 12 plus feet of storm surge could happen in some of those areas. And the storm surge is not something, you're not going to win that battle.
Officials have ordered evacuations in low-lying areas. Many are heeding the warnings, boarding up homes and protecting businesses with sheets of plastic and sandbags.
It has all the possibilities of flooding big time here.
Those planning to ride out the storm have cleared grocery store shelves. Longtime Florida resident Dave Iwanek picked up some essentials and says the predicted storm surge has him worried.
This is different. We haven't seen this kind of water coming. 9 to 12 is something to look at.
Here in Crystal River, Florida, north of Tampa, we've seen a steady stream of trucks towing trailers, boats, moving items out of low-lying areas that could end up under several feet of water. Idalia already passed Cuba, flooding parts of the western tip. Forecasters expect after landfall in Florida, the storm will cross the peninsula and drench southern Georgia. Idalia is expected to reach the Carolinas by Thursday.
As you heard from people there, they are preparing for this one. Second year in a row, they've faced down a major storm that's been headed in this direction. They saw what happened last year with Ian. They are definitely preparing for this one, aware of the possibilities. It's calm preparation, Lauren and Najahe, but they're taking this one seriously.
I'm so glad to hear that, because this is potentially unprecedented for that community. Anyone that you've talked to who said, I'm going to ride it out, have you heard anyone who's maybe not taking it seriously?
They're still taking it seriously, and there are people here who say we're going to ride it out. A lot of times that's because they don't know where to go. But even in those cases, we've seen some of those people going ahead and picking things up off the floor, raising them up as high as they can get them. They're kind of planning on things flooding, but they either don't want to go because they want to stay with their things, or they don't have anywhere to go.
And Jason, I know in Crystal River there's an old retired nuclear power plant. Duke Energy has talked about the fact that the preparations are good there. Everything is set to go, but it makes you wonder about those plans for potential power loss, whether it be Duke Energy or FPL. Did you see any linemen, anyone getting ready to respond for after the storm hits?
Yes, absolutely. Even really going in the last couple days on our way into the area, there were power crews that were coming from all directions. It's very typical, and you know this. They're going to come from a lot of different states. We've seen them really staged around the area. So they're ready. They're in these areas. We know the governor's talked about that. We expect trees to come down, expect power lines to come down, and they are doing everything they can to get those up as soon as possible.
Thank you, Jason. So glad to hear that people are preparing for what's to come and then also looking ahead to what's next. Thank you for your reporting.
All right, Jason, and a live look now at Key West, where Idalia's effects were being felt earlier today. And Jason's reporting, we saw some of those images. Unfortunately, it looks like our camera is frozen, but you saw just how those waves were whipping against the southernmost point buoy there, a landmark in Key West. We do see that one person in that frozen shot, so we do know that some people were out there kind of splashing around in the waves. Not exactly the best idea, but hopefully they're playing it safe there now.
Yeah, and you can also tell from that visibility is a real issue right now, and from our Ted Scouten, and that's where our team coverage takes us now to our very own Ted Scouten. Braving conditions. Ted, we saw you on CBS News Miami at noon. A lot of wind and crashing waves.
Looks like things have calmed down a bit for you now that those outer bands have passed, at least for now.
Things have calmed down a bit. We still have some pretty sturdy winds going on here in Key West. If you take a look over at the trees, that gives you an idea of how strong the winds are right now. Not as bad as they were earlier today, but still blowing at a good clip. Then if you look down into the ocean, you can see it's still pretty choppy out there, but once again, the ocean looking a lot better than it did during high tide this morning. Let's take a look at this video from earlier. Waves crashed over the seawall as water piled up on shore during high tide, which was around 9 o'clock. This also comes as we're experiencing king tides here. That left a lot of standing water right here by the seawall. We also had a strong band move through around noon. That brought some heavy winds and rain with it. I talked to the county mayor. He said there was a wind speed of about 60 miles per hour offshore here by the reef, is what the mayor told me. Now let's look at this next video. Just down the street at the southernmost point, water splashed ashore to the delight of many tourists and locals who were out there taking pictures, but so much water spilled over that it flooded South Street, and some cars had to turn around while others drove through. Now, when I spoke to the county mayor today, he said that overall they're quite happy about how things have gone so far. So at this point, they're thinking that up until now, things have been pretty good here in the Keys. Live in Key West, Ted Scouten, CBS News Miami.
And Ted, just from your video, we saw a couple people sort of playing in the splashing water, extremely dangerous. What's your warning or your message to anyone in that community right now?
Well, people really shouldn't be out in the water because it's such strong current and such strong waves. You have some surfers who were out there earlier enjoying themselves, but at the same time, they're better trained to deal with waves like this. But otherwise, the idea of going out into the water at a time like this just is not a good idea at all.
Ted, yesterday you had Monroe County Mayor Craig Cates on live, and he told us that the plan was to have schools open, to have county offices open. Was that plan carried out, or did they have to take some extra precautions after seeing what they'd be dealing with?
No, that plan was carried out. Schools were in session today. County offices were open. And as a matter of fact, I just spoke to the mayor probably about 20 minutes ago or so. They had a call scheduled for 6 o'clock so they could talk to county officials from up and down the Keys. They've canceled that call, saying that at this point it's not needed. However, if someone needs some guidance, they'll be there to give that person guidance.
Yeah, a little surprising, we thought, when they said they were going to have school, but fortunately classes carried out. It sounds like, Ted, without incident.
Yeah, so far so good. The county mayor was saying that he has not heard of any problems throughout the Keys, and so they're very relieved and very happy about that. But keep in mind, we still have this wind blowing through, and the storm still needs to continue to pass all the way, so we still have to keep our guard up.
Yeah, that sometimes tends to be the issue, that they can't operate the buses in certain sustained winds, so that tends to be the problem. But school out for the day, so let's see how things transpire throughout the evening. Ted scouting live for us in Key West. We'll check back with you in the next half hour.
The Tampa Bay area could see storm surge from 4 to 7 feet. And when we come back, we're going to take you there live, where CBS News Miami's Larry Seward is standing by.
Plus, a new view of the wreckage, the latest on the investigation into yesterday's deadly BSO helicopter crash. Welcome back as we continue our special extended coverage of Hurricane Idalia. First responders from right here in South Florida are already on the move. They were deployed this morning to north central Florida, where Idalia is expected to make landfall. That includes Miami-Dade Fire Rescue's Urban Search and Rescue Team Florida Task Force 1, as well as members of Miami Fire Rescue. They'll be gone for 2 weeks. Their focus will be assisting in search and rescue efforts immediately after the storm.
Yeah, so great to see. I mean, we've lived it, so we lend a helping hand when we can here too. And Neighbors for Neighbors is once again partnering with Global Empowerment Mission to respond to Hurricane Idalia. They have several trucks loaded and ready to deploy immediately to the affected areas in Florida as needed. You can text Hurricane Idalia to 41444 to donate.
And we continue to track new developments with Hurricane Idalia. Only 4:18 right now, and of course we're all standing by for that all-important 5 p.m. advisory.
Yeah, let's get right to Chief Meteorologist and Hurricane Specialist Ivan Cabrera. What's the situation at this point?
Yeah, you know, I'm not expecting a huge change with 5 p.m. We're going to continue to see intensification here, but I think we're pretty much set on where this thing is going to be headed. There will be no significant changes to what we are going to experience here in South Florida, which compared to what's coming for the Big Bend is, well, no comparison at all. But we are still going to be dealing with some squally showers and thunderstorms moving through, some gusty winds, and really my main concern is the potential for flooding down into the Florida Keys. Remember, we have a full moon coming up tomorrow. Anytime you have a full moon, you are going to get astronomically high tides. This is just bad timing. It's going to coincide with this very significant onshore flow, and all of that will combine. I think we're going to see a lot of roadways, perhaps even impassable in parts of the lower Keys. That's what the Weather Service is forecasting down there for folks in Key West. As we check in on Idalia here, we'll continue to see. Let me check on now my Max machine here as I forward this into motion. And I tell you what, this is the latest track from the National Hurricane Center, and we continue to see the system intensifying over the next few hours. This will continue to happen as it approaches, the Florida's Big Bend. As I've been saying, by the time you and I are talking tomorrow, this thing's going to be well inland. It's going to be up into the Carolinas. It's moving at a pretty good clip north at 15. So, you put that track there, and there you have a landfall in the Big Bend anywhere between 6 and 9 a.m. is my best estimate right now as far as when the center or when the eye, if it's a Cat 3, we're going to have an eye popping here soon, and that would come ashore just to the north of Cedar Key. A lot of things still, it's a little wobble here and there, but that cone, I'm not expecting it to change or widen or shift in either direction, west or east. All right, the bands are coming in. We've been seeing torrential downpours for Key West, the rest of the Keys, and I'm tracking a pretty good line now. One of those outer bands moving through Homestead. If you're watching us from Homestead, this may turn severe with some significant wind. We'll watch and see if the Weather Service pulls that alarm there. 38 current wind gusts in Key West. Marathon getting a bit of a break, but there you see that cluster. This is the one now through the 18-mile stretch. Look at how fast this thing is moving. About 15-20 miles an hour, and that in the next half hour is going to be right on top of you, Homestead. You're going to hear the thunder, and you're going to get some pretty good downpours out of it. And so, as I've been mentioning, not a widespread flood threat, but when you get these bands setting up, They are moving fast, so the rain is not going to hang out for too long. But boy, when they come in, it is a blinding rain, and you have to be real careful. In fact, we've already had flood advisories as a result of some of the bands rolling through the Keys. Rain Tracker doing a nice job of depicting that banding right now. Watch as I put this in motion, be able to see even through 8-9 o'clock. You can see this line that continues to move through, and again, that could contain wind gusts in excess of 40 miles an hour. As far as the threats, for the most part, most of them are low, right? Not zero, but the wind, the tornado threat, and the flood threat are all going to be low for various reasons here. The issue will be the surge that will be impacting with the Keys. This is going to be nothing compared, of course, with the Big Bend and the Hurricane Center updated this 10 to 15 feet above ground, right above sea level there. That is going to be a catastrophic wind storm surge for them. And then, of course, as you get away from that center, which is where it's going to be tomorrow morning, you get into lesser amounts. And I think for the Keys, again, 1 to 2 feet, perhaps as high as 2.5 feet for the lower Keys. So we have a coastal warning there. High tide coming up after 10 p.m. tomorrow. And again, expecting the potential for flooding. Middle Keys a little bit better, but still up to 2 feet. You're going to get some parking lots. You're going to get some lots. You're going to get some businesses that are going to be flooded, perhaps even roads at times impassable, and then lesser amounts heading into the upper Keys. And it looks like we just got a severe thunderstorm warning there, as we've been talking about. This would be for Homestead, and as a result of that, we're going to continue to follow the potential for 50, 60 mile an hour winds. All right, I'll track this for you. You'll be able to see the movement here continuing with the bands through tonight and heading into tomorrow. I think the bulk of this event for us is happening now, and it's going to continue through tomorrow afternoon, and we're going to be in much better shape as we head through the day on Thursday and heading into a Friday. So still some squally weather for tomorrow. We'll have temperatures at a steaming rate here, numbers into the low and middle 90s with temperatures that are going to feel like anywhere from 95 to 100. Hang out with me for a second, guys, here. I want to go back on Max here and just do a quick update on what is a severe thunderstorm warning that was just posted, it looks like, for Homestead down in southern Miami-Dade County. It is for that cell that I've been tracking over the last several minutes. There it is there. That is a severe thunderstorm warning that is going to be in effect essentially for the next hour or so until 5 p.m. So, all right, for the next half hour, because it's moving rather quickly here. With this kind of setup here, you have to be very careful because you could have some rotation in some of these cells. Obviously, if this translates into anything more than a severe thunderstorm warning, like a tornado warning, will break in. But that is about on your doorstep, Homestead, watching us there through the 18-mile stretch, Florida City, heading into Naranja, and just to the south of Kendall until 5 p.m. Severe thunderstorm warning just posted from the National Weather Service.
Right. Thank you for that very latest update, Ivan. Our team coverage now moves to Tampa with CBS News Miami's Larry Seward.
And Larry, how are conditions looking over there? I can just imagine about a year ago, it seemed like the people in Tampa really heeded the warnings for Ian and really dodged a bullet, so to speak. So how are they handling what they're feeling as far as impacts coming from Idalia?
Yeah, what happened here with Ian actually is, I don't want to say fool's gold, but it has people confident and waiting until the last minute in some cases before they make a decision. Listen, we had rain, heavy rain, about an hour ago. We have another band of rain moving in right now. It's pretty light, but we are downtown in Tampa, and this is the Bay. On the left there, that is Tampa General Hospital. Among the concerns down here is flooding. It's significant for people who live here as well as the folks who run this city. I want to show you why. This water is literally 3 steps up away from that street. If there is significant storm surge, and there are forecasts suggesting up to 7 feet, that is going to inundate this area. In the hospital that I showed you there on the other side of the water there's the potential of a threat of it blocking access to that hospital. That hospital has been taking precautions to try to ward off that storm surge, but the city of Tampa has labeled this area, it's a mandatory evacuation zone. There are parts of 22 counties in the state right now that are mandatory evacuations. We talked to some of the people that are still here. One man is a doctor in training working at a hospital. He said he did not want to leave because of his job. He figures there could be an emergency and he may be needed, but he also feels secure in his high rise that is downtown, even though it's a mandatory evacuation evacuation and letters urging residents to leave because he feels that it's high up and he has enough supplies. He thinks the building is sturdy. But the mayor of Tampa, Jane Castor, a short time ago telling people that, hey, I've lived here 63 years, never seen a direct hit of a hurricane, and while this won't be a direct hit, the storm surge is significant, and anybody that's been in a serious hurricane that stayed and made that decision when there were waters of that nature, she said those people wish they could have left sooner. So please leave is what she's telling people in low-lying areas and areas that are under mandatory evacuations. But again, we are expecting another line of heavy rain hitting in, which would be our second today, coming in the next 10 minutes or so.
All right, thank you so much, and so important. I think you really just hit it home that I think there's a little bit of fatigue because Ian didn't hit the area like it was expected to, but take this seriously. This is a life-threatening storm to hit that area. We'll still ahead calling it quits. We're going to tell you the familiar name who is now dropping out of the race for president.
And we continue to track Hurricane Idalia. South Florida not in the cone as Idalia passes to our west, but we have everything you need to know as our friends and neighbors to our north prepare. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez is officially out of the 2024 Republican presidential race. This after Suarez failed to make the cut for the GOP debate last week.
In an announcement, the Miami mayor said, quote, running for president has been the greatest honor of my life, end quote. Suarez is the first Republican to drop out of the 2024 race. You are watching a special edition of CBS News Miami's 4 p.m. Quickcast.
Join us after the break for more live coverage of Hurricane Idalia and other local news. Stay with us.